Welcome back to We're Open. I'm so honored to be joined by today's guest, who was a senior animator at Free Realms. They're giving us a behind-the-scenes story. Let's have a listen. Hey, Floyd, welcome to the We're Open podcast. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I wore my shirt.
I'm really glad you wore that. So you were one of our most requested guests. For those who don't know, who are you?
So I am Floyd Bishop. I was an animator on Free Realms, SOE, Sony Online Entertainment, people that published and made Free Realms. I worked there from 2008 until 2014. Actually, the day that the game launched, I was out sick getting my gallbladder removed. Initially, Free Realms was going to be a browser-based game, like a Club Penguin type thing. And then they moved to more of a 3D world.
You really got to see the whole evolution of the game. How did you discover your passion for art and animation?
I used to draw all the time in all my classes. Some of my best art came out of my math classes. And then I went to school for graphic design, but I really wanted to do animation. So I bought a bunch of books and read them and then tried to meet as many animators as I could. Shortly after I got out of college, I worked at a studio called Blue Sky Studios on the first Ice Age movie. I was character animator. And then one of my friends was doing some work for Sony PlayStation, and I started doing some work for them. And then they hired me and then went over to Sony Online Entertainment. So in addition to Free Realms, I got to animate on Landmark, EverQuest Next, DC Universe Online, Clone Wars Adventures, Magic, The Gathering, Legends of the Planeswalker.
You have a very impressive resume. Did you find it limiting or more creative to make things for children?
There's all this crazy stuff going on, but it all kind of works together, right? And there was some stuff we put in the game to kind of like cater to the older players. We would put references to things in. So we did this boombox that was kind of based on like the Rick Roll. And when you drop the boombox, it would turn you into Rick Astley. But a lot of kids didn't know what that was. And we didn't use the actual Rick Roll song. It was a similar sounding song. So a lot of kids called it the waiter boombox because they thought the guy was a waiter. Sony would have this event in Las Vegas called Fanfare. Every year we would do a panel where kids got to design a mount. The very first one we did, a kid suggested a kangaroo. He wanted to ride in its pouch. We thought that was really cool. And then we thought, well, how would we even do that? The humans are so much taller than the pixies. If you could x-ray the kangaroo, what we did is we put the person in the pocket and their hands hold on the pocket and that their shoulders are sticking out, but their body is doing this like snail curl thing so that they fit inside the body of the kangaroo.
I'm glad you went with the kids' suggestion at the panel. You spoke at a lot of events and interviews.
Yeah, when I first started there, they asked me to do a video the first year on Free Realms, and I got super nervous. It was so bad that they didn't use any of my footage. I don't know what happened, but like a switch went off in my head. And after that, I could talk in front of 1,000 people. And I did do a lot of in-person talks. I did one about Free Realms in Germany at GDC.
It sounds like an amazing experience. What was the environment in SOE?
And the first few years of Free Realms was very strict, like, all right, these are the animations we have exactly. These are what we want them to do exactly. Do it like this. But then as other titles spun up, all those titles started to take people away. And because Free Realms was a live title, we're just putting little content updates in. We didn't need 90 people anymore. We could get by with a smaller number. As a byproduct of that, your input on the title got more and more because there's not enough people to work, or not as many people to work on it. One of the animators on EverQuest, Tom Toby, who still works on EverQuest, we would go back and forth, and it almost became a competition between who could put the cooler thing in the game. He's like, well, you guys should put an octopus on your game that you ride on. And I thought, you know what? We could do that. I'm going to do that. That'd be fun. And then he's like, yeah, but too bad you didn't make it juggle. So in the last minute, I did an animation of the octopus mount that pulls these gears out of its head, and it juggled them and then put them back in. That's what I really liked about Free Realms, is that it was like the best idea won, especially near the end. Whatever the coolest idea was, as long as you could do it in the amount of time we had, go for it. Anything new, it was either myself or really talented animator Jessica Rojek.
I didn't expect having less staff to be positive, but those are good points. So what happens after you make an animation?
Behind the scenes, you've got a build of the game that's broken, kind of, right? As you're working on it, you've got like the dev build where you're trying out new things. It's not quite ready for the public yet, so you're putting these things in. And then parts of that get moved over to like a QA build, which is like the quality assurance people test it and make sure it's going to work. Once it passes QA, then it goes over to like another branch that is what actually is going to go out to the public. And we would do weekly updates. Usually they would be, I think, on a Thursday. And some weeks they would be really big things like, we're going to release a whole new area. And sometimes there were little things like, oh, we're doing a tie-in with Bambi on DVD, so you can get Bambi as a pet.
I remember Bambi. Were there ideas you would have liked to have seen in the game?
At one point, we were going to make a roller coaster. and we were going to sell like track packs. So you could have like a loop and you could have curvy tracks and straight tracks and things. And the idea was that you would put them in your housing instance, you'd put the like roller coaster cart on it, and it would just follow whatever track you set up.
That would have been so cool. What have you been up to since you left SOE?
I picked up coding as a skill set. So now I do a lot of tool writing and things. And my job now, I'm the principal technical art manager for a team at Microsoft. So I've got a team of 24 artists that work with me. So I work on a lot of augmented and virtual reality. And I'm currently working on an avatar system for Teams, kind of like your cat person. So it's a way for people to appear on screen, but not appear on screen. It's called Microsoft Mesh, and it's coming soon.
Congrats, it's going to be really exciting to see. So I know you're aware of Free Roam Sunrise. What are your thoughts?
It's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know about like all the legal ramifications of trying to bring a game back, but as somebody that worked on it, it's great to see people still so interested in it, especially to see and be contacted by people who played the game, and to be part of that kind of like core memory is pretty cool.
Can viewers reach out to you? We have a lot of artists in the FRS community.
I love talking to people about animation or anything related to art. If you have any questions that weren't covered in this, or you just have a question and it's like, hey, you want to look at my artwork, feel free to reach out, because it's super cool to see that stuff, especially if people played Free Realms. It's cool to see what they're doing now.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today, Floyd. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for the interview.
I can't thank Floyd enough for joining us today. Our next guest was a community manager for Free Realms. Subscribe to find out which.